And why don't we see what one has to say right now? Joining us on the phone, Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump. Donald, you're also the author of The Art of the Deal, so why don't you tell us what you think of the deal with Iran?
Well, they didn't read The Art of the Deal. Most people did. They didn't. It's a ridiculous deal. Even a thing like, and you know, nuclear is so important, and stopping nuclear proliferation, which this deal I think will enhance, but so important. But something like at the beginning when they were discussing it, we had 3 prisoners. We now have 4 prisoners. Automatically, you say, listen, not going to do you any good. Release the prisoners would send a great signal to everybody. You don't care about them, but we do. Important for the United States. Just release the prisoners. Now, if that's delivered by the right messenger, they would have done it a long time ago. Amazingly, I don't even think that Kerry brought it up. It sounds like he never even brought it up. He said one thing has nothing to do with the other. The other thing is giving billions and billions of dollars to them, releasing the money before you even do the deal, where they're getting billions of dollars. They are going to be so rich and so powerful. And, you know, when you talk about the deal itself, anytime, anywhere, you have to go in and inspect anytime, anywhere. Now, they have a 24-day notice provision. Give a 24-day notice to go in and inspect. I think it's made by people that are incompetent. And it might very well get by because probably the veto is, you know, it's going to be, he's in pretty good shape in terms of that. But I think it's a disgrace, and we should have doubled up the sanctions, and we should have made a deal where they came. We were dealing from desperation. We look so desperate, and it's a disgrace. I think the deal is absolutely something. I love the idea of a deal.
Yeah.
By the way, but it's not a well-negotiated deal. We should have doubled up the sanctions and made a much better deal.
So I've got some other questions for you, Donald, but I'm continuing on this line. Mike Barnicle, follow up.
Donald, I just want to know, have you read the deal?
I have seen the deal. I've seen it broken down in every newspaper you can imagine. And I think I know the deal quite well because other people, I assume, are going into it in great detail. I have seen every newspaper article you can. I've seen the good points and the bad points.
Okay.
And the good points are not very strong. That I can tell you.
But what about the counter-argument to your argument, just proposed about the sanctions, that there was very little likelihood that the United States alone, in the course of operating with the rest of these countries, Russia, China, etc., could have held the sanctions together, that the sanctions would have collapsed?
Well, Mike, that's about leadership. You know, if you had a president that was a leader, he would be able. He can't even talk. You know, when you look at where we are with countries, as an example, with Russia, they can't even talk together. Putin can't stand him. In all fairness, he can't stand Putin, but Putin doesn't respect him. It's about leadership. I mean, you have to hold the sanctions together. And if we had the right leadership, it would be something much different. You know, Russia's a big beneficiary of this deal. There are numerous places that are going to be big beneficiaries of this deal.
So, Joe, you have a question for Donald? Take it.
I wanted to go from the Iranian deal to domestic politics. Donald, another poll is out. It has you, the Suffolk poll has you in first place ahead of Jeb Bush and the rest of the Republican field. But it has you losing badly to Hillary Clinton and has you upside down in your overall approval rating. How do you thread the needle, win the Republican primary, and turn around your approval rating? You're losing to Hillary in the Suffolk poll by almost 20 points. Why is that, and what do you do to turn those numbers around?
Look, Hillary was the worst Secretary of State in the history of our country. I think that the person she doesn't want to run against is me, because I say it, and Bush doesn't say it. Nobody says it. I don't know. They have like a deal. These politicians, Democrats, are where they don't speak truly about others, but they have some kind of a deal. I would beat Hillary, and I'll tell you what, a vote that I will win is the Hispanic vote. I employ thousands of Hispanics, And I will tell you, I will win that vote because I will take jobs back from China and back from all these other countries that have been absolutely killing us with economic development and jobs and trade agreements. We don't make good trade agreements. We lose with everybody. We don't have any good agreements. We will have the best agreements that this country's ever had. I'll create jobs, and I'll get the Hispanic vote. I have so many thousands that work for me and thousands that have over the years, and the Hispanics love me. So I will win the Hispanic vote, and you would be surprised to hear that because I talk about illegal immigration, which I'm opposed to.
Right.
But I will win the Hispanic vote because I will create jobs. And by the way, Jeb Bush wouldn't know where to go to create a job. Jeb Bush won't negotiate deals. And interestingly, he was following you, obviously, Joe, because you said, get tough. You got to get tough. You got to get tough. Because he only can follow you or a pollster. I don't have a pollster. I just go with what's right.
Mark Halperin.
He will not bring back jobs.
Mr. Trump, two questions on politics. First, are you meeting with Ted Cruz today? And if so, how did that meeting come about and why are you meeting with him? And second, we're still waiting on your financial disclosure forms. When are they coming out and what will the headline of that disclosure be?
Okay, the disclosure forms are going to be put out today sometime, today or tomorrow, but I think today, which is, by the way, earlier than even the 30-day period, Mark, as you know. The 30-day period expires in 2 or 3 days, and you're entitled to 2 45 days extensions, and I'm doing it earlier, and the numbers will be far in excess of what anybody thought. I built a great company. I think Joe and Mika would understand that because they've seen some of my things. I built a great, great company, and that's the way it is. And, you know, what else would you like to know?
Are you meeting with Ted Cruz today? If so, how'd that come about and why?
Yeah, Ted Cruz called me, and I don't know why I'm meeting him, to be honest, but I do have respect for him. I respect the fact that, along with a couple of others, he came out very strongly and agreed with what I said on illegal immigration. And he came out very strongly, and he came out early, and I respect that. I like him. He called me. He wanted to meet, and we are going to meet. What it's about, I have absolutely no idea, Mark, but I'm sure you'll be the first to know and figure it out.
So we'll be following that meeting, and we also want to stick to some foreign policy. Take a look there. We have the president of the Council on Foreign Relations, Richard Haass, who has a question for you, Donald.
Hi,
Donald,
Richard.
Hi. You were quite critical of the just negotiated Iran deal, so I'm curious, if you become president, what would you do? Because this would be the deal then that you would inherit.
Oh, I hate to inherit the deal, Richard. I guess you do, but I hate to inherit it. But I will tell you, those tours, the anytime, anywhere, any place, we have to do something, I would be so strong on it. But I hate to inherit this deal because I could have made so much better a deal. We could have made a deal that would have been so much better for everybody, including the other countries we're talking about. You know, Iran has the 4th largest oil reserves in the world. They have so much, and we're giving them so much, and they're going to be so rich. And Richard, you talk about it all the time. Their sphere of influence is going to be spread to lots of bad areas and lots of bad people. They're going to have the money to do it. They're going to have everything they want. And ultimately, they're going to have the nukes all over the place. You know, at the end of their term, from what everybody tells me, what every analyst who really has analyzed it greatly, at the end of their term, they will be able to make the nukes easily. And that's a real problem, very easily.
Donald, I want to ask you a question about how the campaign is going, and I'm curious if you had to describe maybe a learning curve along the way or an evolution or something you regret so far in this campaign, what would it be?
Well, there's a lot of intensity. I enjoy it. I'm getting the biggest crowds of anybody. I had a tremendous crowd, thousands and thousands of people in Phoenix. Excuse me?
Well, that's the good part. What do you regret about anything that you've said or done or how you've handled the situation? What are you learning? Because this is the first time you've actually been on the campaign. It's been talked about for years. You've done a lot of things in your career, but this is something you've never done. There must be something that you think, oh, I've got to change my ways here. I've got to make a change in strategy. What regrets do you have along the way right
Mika,
now?
I've been very truthful. I tell you, one thing I have learned is how really dishonest the media, some of it, some is fantastic and some I have great respect for. But some of the political media, I'm used to dealing with the financial media, and I get along with them very well. Some of the political media really is very dishonest. They don't want to print the truth. They don't want to say what you said. They don't want to say what you mean. They know what you said. They know what you mean, and they put it in totally different words. It's like you didn't say it, and it's incredible to me. So I'm very much more careful when I'm dealing with certain people, and frankly, certain people you don't want to deal with. I mean, I've had meetings with some of the various reporters that absolutely have taken what I've said and turned it to a point where they know it's dishonest and they actually smile about it.
I know what you're talking.
But I think it's important for people to know. And I find that the public doesn't trust the media. It's almost as bad as not trusting Congress, frankly.
Okay, I totally understand what you're tapping into there, but let's just go there since you're going there. Because I don't think it was just the media that misunderstood your words, if that's how would you put it. I think some people really understood what you were saying as to be Mexican immigrants are rapists and murderers. So let me ask you the question. So let me ask you the question.
Mika, don't fall into the other category.
I'm not falling into it, Donald.
Mika,
I'm asking you.
You didn't read my words.
I didn't.
It says Mexico is sending. The government of Mexico. It says Mexico is sending. It doesn't say what you said.
If you could help me out here and answer the question, do you believe that Mexican immigrants are rapists and murderers?
Illegal immigrants are causing tremendous problem coming in. I want legal immigrants. Illegal immigrants are causing tremendous problems, Mika. There's crime. It's a crime wave. It's a disaster. Do I believe many people? I mean, look, as far as I'm concerned, I have hundreds and hundreds of Mexicans working for me. I love Mexican people. I love their spirit. The problem we're having with Mexico is that their government officials and negotiators are far smarter than ours, like from a different planet. And they are negotiating deals, trade deals, the border, everything else. We are getting the short end of the stick in every single instance, and we are having a big problem. Now, let me just tell you, just to finish, Mexico is sending a lot of their people over that they don't want, and that includes people that should be in Mexican prisons. And you know it, and I know it, and nobody wants to talk about it.
Mr. Trump, the last point you made is the one that set all this off. I'd just like you to be as specific as you can in saying, how do you know the Mexican government is sending people over?
Because
what's your
I've heard
evidence
it from
of that?
5 different sources.
And what are the 5 sources?
If you speak to the border guards, who I've spoken to many of, if you speak to border guards, and these guys are terrific, they're almost crying. They've almost got tears in their eyes when they explain that they're not allowed to do their job.
What are your 5 sources?
And Mark, what happens is this.
You said 5 sources. What are your 5 sources? And I'm sorry to interrupt, but what are your 5 sources that say the Mexican government purposely sends criminals to the United States?
I'll reveal my sources when you reveal your sources, Mark. I have a lot of information on it, and so does everyone else, and you probably do too. And for some reason, they don't want to put out this information. Mexico, and if you remember many years ago, when Fidel Castro opened its prisons and sent the people over, and everybody knew it, we never sent them back. We took all of these prisoners. Mexico, in a far more sophisticated way, is doing something very similar. They're sending tremendously. You look at the man that killed Kate. You look at Jamil Shaw. You look at so many thousands of instances where illegals are coming in, and it's a crime wave. And frankly, Mexico doesn't care from the standpoint that they don't want to house these people for a long period of time in their prisons. They say, let the United States take care of them. Let the United States put them in their jails. Why should we pay for it? And believe me, it's happening, and it's happening big league, and this country doesn't know. And just like, and in my opinion, what Mexico is more upset with me, Trump, is the fact that I'm revealing how bad the trade deals are. I think they're more concerned with that than they are with what I'm saying on the border, because Ford is going in. Everybody's going into Mexico, and we're taking jobs. We're sucking jobs right out of our country. Ford is building a $2.5 billion factory, automobile factory, in Mexico. They're going to make cars and parts and trucks and send them back into the United States. How does that help us? I revealed that. I've told it. I've had the biggest audiences, you know that, the biggest standing ovations. You've been there. And I will tell you, I'm revealing about the horrible trade deals that we're making, not only with Mexico, with China and every other place that we do business with. And Mexico is more concerned about that than what I'm even saying at the border. They're outsmarting our politicians.
So, Donald,
Yes.
So Donald, when I have Bernie Sanders on, I'm going to ask him this same question. Because Bernie obviously is tearing it up on the Democratic side on the campaign trail, shocking a lot of people with large crowds.
Right.
You're doing it on the Republican side, and I'm going to ask Bernie, because I think it's so telling. You talking about pollsters and pundits. I never had them. Anecdotal was what, and gut is what I played off of as a politician. Anecdotally, what are you hearing on the campaign trail? You have these huge crowds. What is the one issue that seems to be galvanizing people that haven't been involved in politics to come to your rallies?
That we have incompetent leadership. We have grossly incompetent leadership. That is the one overriding theme. And they don't see it any better with Bush. He doesn't have the energy. He's not going to produce. And I will tell you that when he raises $100 million, nobody knows about campaign contributions more than me, because I've probably given more than almost anybody. When you give $100 million to Bush, he's got his $100 million sitting there. Every single person that gave every single dollar is expecting something for that money. Every single person. And that's not good for the country. You know, that's a problem. That's a system, but it's not good. Everybody that goes in there and hands him $1 million, they're not doing it for nothing. And that's not good. That means you can't make deals that are good for the country, because you have to take care of these people. And it's a bad thing. As an example, I mentioned Ford going in. I would know what to do that Ford wouldn't build that factory there. Ford will build the factory in this country, okay? In Phoenix, in Iowa, anywhere. Stay in Michigan. But somebody that's reliant on all of these lobbyists and special interests, Joe, and donors,
right?
They have no power to make a decision, because they feel obligated to all these people that gave him the money that got him there. So the $100 million that he raised is a bad thing, not a good thing.
Donald Trump, thank you for being with us. The campaign continues, and boy, you're making waves. We will see you on Morning Joe very soon. Thanks for giving us a call.
Thank you very much.
John Meacham, I brought up Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side because, boy, I wish Teddy White were alive to write about the 2016 campaign, because the two breakout politicians, the two surprise politicians, are a socialist on the Democratic side and an industrialist billionaire on the Republican side, and they're both talking about bad trade deals with Mexico and China. It's just, boy, this is one for political scientists and historians like you to take a look at and explain to us why that is.
Well, I think a really good question, not unlike Ross Perot in '92, is to what extent is politics about emotion, and to what extent is it about reason? And right now, it's an emotional season, and the question will be, as the months go on, and as Teddy White might write, as the seasons cool, which is kind of a White phrase, to what extent will the emotional appeals that we're hearing right now endure?
All right, still ahead.
That is a question. Mm-hmm. That's a question, Mika, and it's pretty remarkable. The crowds that he's getting, the crowds that Bernie Sanders is getting, and I think it's happening because we are in the age of Clinton and Bush, and Americans are desperate for an alternative.
So I think that's the case with Bernie Sanders. I'm not surprised by Trump's crowds at all. And I think it plays into what you're talking about. But were you surprised, Joe, to see thousands of people wanting to take pictures with Donald Trump whenever we've seen him or done projects with him or whatever, or seen him on NBC? He's a national celebrity.
Yeah, I am really surprised how quickly he has gotten to the top of the Republican field. I am surprised by these poll numbers that come out that show him ahead of Jeb Bush right now. I think Mark Halpern has been making a great point, Mika, all morning, and you have too. He's not Michelle Bachmann. He's not Herman Cain. He's not Sarah Palin. And people that think he's going to have a week and a half at the top of the polls and then tumble out are underestimating him. He and I think Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side are going to be forces for some time.
And he's not even doing as well as he can do.
Well, still ahead on Morning Joe, the lobbying battle is heating up on Capitol Hill. Why many Democrats may not be sold yet on the deal with Iran. Congressman Steve Israel joins us from Washington, along with NBC News political director Chuck Todd. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.